All right. Well, welcome, Joe.
Mike.
You're looking good today.
Yeah, I figured I was a little disappointed. We didn't have Buddy the Elf on because of the results of our listeners challenge, which we'll share in a minute. But I couldn't let the rally hat, not make its appearance because we're 2 games out of the AFC East.
We are. So, listen, why don't you give a quick 30-second debrief on your take on the Bills and where they're at and what's ahead?
I think it's a big game coming up this weekend against Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
We win that one. I think we got a shot at taking Miami down. And Miami's got some tough games ahead of them with Dallas and Baltimore.
Right.
And the Bills, of course. But, a nice bounce back off the bye week. Always nice to beat the Chiefs. I think that's the 3rd year in a row we've beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Unfortunately, one of those losses, though, wasn't in the playoffs. But,
right.
We'll take it for what it is.
Yeah.
Also saw some crying coming out of Kansas City about some officiating. For once, the officials got to play the call right.
Yes.
And people are complaining about it.
Right, exactly. Right, so listen, it's time to move on, but I know we're excited about the game this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big game.
So, Joe, let's turn to the mortgage update, the market update.
There was one more football-related update.
Okay.
Do you know who the first place team in our JRB Fantasy Football League was?
I think that it's you.
That's correct.
Yes, it is.
I knew that. But.
I know. And you want to know who's in last?
Is that you?
That's me.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
So let's just clarify that. So apparently I'm better at the mortgage business than I am fantasy football.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
So Joe, let's talk about the market. So obviously this is the last podcast of the year.
Yep. I'm going to take the head.
What a year it's been. But obviously, let's go through and share with everybody what took place in November, and then we can start to look ahead towards the new year.
Yeah. So the stats for November were interesting, and even just what we've been hearing from people. The market kind of hit a little bit of a wall, slowed down, and when I looked at the stats from November, Monroe and surrounding counties, or just Monroe County alone, was 3.92% over ask.
Okay.
And we've been running in the 9 to 15% range this whole year.
So pretty big.
So a pretty big drop, more of a flat market. There was one outlier in that the 14616 zip code, which was our highest percentage over ask, was 41% over ask.
Mm-hmm.
The next highest one was 15%. So that 41%, there were 4 homes that sold in that zip code in our data.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still a good indicator of what that market is like.
Right.
But that if you took that 41% out, it takes your average down to 2.22.
Okay.
Right. So pretty low. We continue to see those hotter. The 146 Greece is that 41% over. We had a 10% over zip code in Greece. Pittsford, who's been relatively high, the 14534, that was 8.6% over. So, that market has come down a little bit, right? And I think part of that is, we hit 8.5% last month, right? But the good news is we're back into the 6s today.
Right.
So from an interest rate perspective, we're getting some tailwind, which we've been facing headwinds all year.
Right.
So that's a good thing. Going down the road to Onondaga County, a little bit more of the same. They've typically been in the 3 to 4% range over ask. Some months were like 1%. Right. 3.44 for the month of November. Highest was 14.51 over. Lowest was 4.97 under. And then if we look at just back to Monroe County for a second, the ranges from 11% under ask to 41% over ask, right? So still a pretty
big spread.
And same thing in Onondaga County, we went from 5 under to 15 over. So, still a big spread there. Government business, I looked at that real quick just to get an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse, Onondaga County, Onondaga and surrounding was 30% government business.
It's actually nice to see.
That's nice to see. That means, some government loans are getting accepted. And Monroe County, I didn't have time to go back and look, but I think this was their highest of the year, is at 15%.
That's good to see.
So, again, starting to see some of those government offers get accepted, which is also an indicator of a little bit of a softer market, right? Getting an FHA offer with seller's concessions accepted. I mean, we've seen a couple of those last month. So that's big.
Joe, one of the things that I would just share with everybody that's listening, which is mostly realtors, is make certain that, this market data that you just went through, we've been doing this really now for the past 2 years. And I think one of the things that we get a lot of great feedback from the realtors that we work with, that it's helpful in helping them, whether they're talking to a seller or a buyer, to give them some context as to, what homes are selling for in real time, by zip code, by town, so that both sellers and buyers are really aware of what's going on. So I encourage the folks that are listening to this to reach out to GRB. We love to provide this data to you, and we're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's, Joe, let's look ahead. So only got, today's what? Today's the 13th. So we're
12 days.
We only got exactly 12 days till Christmas. Only, you call it a little
18
less.
days left in the year.
18 days left in the
Final countdown.
Yeah. So looking ahead to 2024, just a few things from my seat is we take a look at a lot of the national data, the national forecasts. Obviously, we're part of the Mortgage Bankers Association of America. They do a good job of trying to forecast what the market's going to look like, what rates are going to look like for the new year. And one of the things that that is out there is that the market, the real estate market, is expected to be a little bit better next year, but we have to be reminded that real estate is local. Yep. Right? And what's going on in Rochester and Syracuse is different than what could be going on in Phoenix and other parts of the country. What we've learned is that here in upstate New York, specifically Rochester, continues to be one of the top, if not the most competitive market to buy a home in. Yep. So from that standpoint, the prognosis is that we do see rates, as you said before, Joe, have come down. They've actually come down quite a bit in the past 30 days, and the forecast is that rates are going to continue to moderate lower. No one knows for certain where rates are going to go.
Are we going to get snow tomorrow? Nobody knows.
Hopefully it's going to be a favorable environment.
And I'd like to throw a shameless plug in here. So next year, for 2024, I'm the president of the Rochester Local Mortgage Bankers Association.
Yep.
And so January 24th, we are having our economic forum and forecast in partnership with GRAR, the Rochester Home Builders. And we are very excited for this event because not only will we get an insight, we'll have a national speaker from the MBA. He'll give, more of a mortgage outlook. Jim Yockel, the president of the GRAR, will give a real estate outlook. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to be talking about something special. I think we've talked about it a little bit on this podcast before, this housing initiative that we're working with and how it really impacts the community. Last year was a great event. We had 400-ish people there. And I'm excited to do it again this year in January. Hopefully we get the same type of turnout because the impact of what we're going to be talking about, we can all talk about housing initiative and the lack of inventory that's out there and how it impacts our each individual respective businesses, lines of business. But in reality, there's a broader impact to it from a community perspective that we're going to talk a little bit about, as well as how it's impacting jobs. How is it impacting business and commerce? And that's going to be a very powerful event.
So, Joe, who should attend this event?
Real estate agents, local politicians, right? Really, to anybody who touches or is concerned about the mortgage industry. So, loan officers, real estate agents, attorneys,
appraisers,
title insurance firms, anybody that may touch this industry or is impacted by this, or people that are just curious, right? I think it doesn't need to be people in the industry, and that's what we're trying. Our audience that we're trying to reach is not only the people within the industry, but people without it, because we need everybody to help make that change. And we'll talk a lot more about that at the event. But I think that is a good launching point to the year. And if you're not local in Rochester, I don't know if they do these things in Australia, but I know a lot of the local towns have their own version of this, right? Syracuse, I believe, Onondaga County, they have a version. The GSAR has a version of this, these economic forum and forecasts. So look on calendars for where you can find yours, because it is very helpful to get an understanding of where is the industry headed for the year. And like you said, nobody can predict the future, but at least it gives you guidance, and it also kind of gives you some solitude in knowing that you're not crazy.
Right, exactly. So, well, we will be there, Joe. We're looking forward to it. So the last thing we wanted to do, so this is our last podcast of the year. Pete might be, why do we have this? We have a fishbowl here. I thought we were giving
away a prize.
Yeah, so it's actually, there's a fishbowl here that has several questions that we've received throughout the year from our listeners, hopefully our fans. So I'm just going to pick one here, Joe.
And they're not pre-vetted. We don't know what.
Yep. So we'll do probably 3 or 4 of these. And again, for those that are listening in, please feel free to email us to let us know things that you want to learn more about. We'd love to hear from you. So, all right. First question is big one. How does my credit score affect my ability to qualify for a mortgage? Wow, there's a lot there.
Yeah, there is a lot there. The credit score ranges from 350 to 850. 350 is the lowest, 850 the highest. A lot of banks have minimum credit scores that they'll lend on. Certain programs have credit criteria that they'll lend on. A lot of the underwriting today has become automated, right? We run Desktop Underwriter, we run Loan Product Advisor, we run Sunny Mae Express, right? There's different underwriting systems where it reads the credit and takes that risk factor into consideration and spits out a decision. So if you are above the minimum that a bank offers, so our minimum credit score at GRB is 620. If you're above that, then the next step is for us to take your scenario, calculate your income, calculate your debt to income ratio, your loan to value, put all that into our automated underwriting system, and it's going to tell us based on the risk review of your credit. And, there's times where we're able to get somebody with a 620 credit score approved. And for more, you usually see that in an FHA loan. Or even there's people that don't have established credit that there's programs for as well. But that credit score really drives, 1, can you get approved? 2, how it has a big impact on what your interest rate is going to be. And there's different adjusters that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA all have outlined where based on your credit score, there's an adjuster to the rate to drive it up or down. And, that's how the big impact comes in from a credit score.
So, Joe, since we're talking about credit and credit score, what guidance can you give to someone that, for instance, they've used very little, credit. Maybe they just have one card and they paid on time, but either there is no score or it's below 620. What are some of the suggestions you would make to people that fall into that category?
So everybody's situation is different. A lot of times it's establishing that additional credit, but the best way to understand, we use a tool called Credit Expert, right? So we can look at when we run credit, we can look at it. How can we get somebody's score to X? And, it kind of tells us what the formula is. So even if you're concerned about your credit, sometimes people think their credit is worse than it is. And then other times there's little things like paying a balance down that we can do that can have a really big impact on your credit score. The amount of debt that you carry, credit card balances that you carry relative to your limits, once you get above 50% of that revolving credit balance to limit, it really starts to bring your score down. So sometimes it's as simple as just paying a balance down to get your score up. But again, those are tools our loan officers have at their disposal, so we can always look into that and work with you to figure that out.
Credit is something that we could talk about for a while. It is obviously a very important topic to really go deep on, but those are some,
well,
that's some good
feedback.
you pick out one?
You got to be on the spot now.
Okay, all right, I'm ready.
All right, this is a good one.
Okay.
Are you Batman? It's not really the question.
Okay. Sometimes.
Okay. Will the Buffalo Bills make the Super Bowl in this decade?
Will the Buffalo Bills make the Super Bowl?
Not win, just make it.
Make it in this decade. So that means before the end of 2029. You know what? The optimist that I am, the answer is yes.
All right.
And I think, frankly, if it's going to take place, which I think it will, it's going to take place within the next 3 years. Based on the team they have, the age of the team, that's my 2 cents worth. All right. So here's hoping. All right, Joe. Not exactly a mortgage question. What is your favorite holiday cookie?
Oof. That's a tough one. So, I come from a large Italian family.
Yes.
every year.
The cookie tray.
The cookie
is
tray.
Loaded.
There's lots of cookies, so there's a lot. There's
a lot of options.
There's a lot of options. But I have to say, around the holidays, my mom always makes the 3-color cookie, right? The 3 layers, red, white, and green, covered in chocolate. It's got to be my.
Can you bring some of those in?
I will.
Okay.
There's some in the freezer. I got it just defrosted.
All right, Joe, we got time for one more
question. All right, let's see.
Okay.
Let's see. Hopefully this is a mortgage one.
Okay.
Oh, did you put it back?
I must
The
have.
same question.
Oh, okay. Maybe it was in there twice.
This is a good one. How does layering mortgage programs and promotions work?
How does layering mortgage promotions and programs work? Great questions. I guess the best way to kind of go through this is to share probably just a couple examples.
Yep.
So there are programs out there. So, for instance, GRB, we're part of the Federal Home Loan Bank of New York. We offer the Home Buyer Dream program. It's going on right now. It's going to go fast. That is a grant where folks, if they qualify for it, can get up to $20,000. It's a great tool to help folks get into their home. We are also a participating Sunny Mae lender. So that stands for the State of New York Mortgage Association. They have down payment assistance loans and grants that can be used in conjunction with other grants. So my suggestion to anyone that is listening to this is that there are so many different programs out there, so many different grant programs that exist through the state, through the city, through certain towns, that you really need to make certain that you're working with a lender like GRB. This is a plug for us that really is not only offers these programs and these grants, but frankly, we're well versed, in them. And I think one of the things that I would encourage, I would not want to see any potential buyer leave any money on the table that they qualify for, because buying a home is expensive. And knowing how to layer these grants and these programs is going to really help you minimize your out-of-pocket expense and potentially get more house.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I know you obviously are very close to this as well. Anything you would add to that answer?
No, I think, it is. It's understanding what's out there, understanding what you can use and how. There's certain, restrictions when it comes to a combined loan to value, if it's a conventional loan versus an FHA loan. But I think we've seen loans where borrowers have gotten like $26,000, $27,000 in grants towards buying their house. That's a huge impact, not only from a down payment perspective, but also the more money you put down, the lower your monthly payment is, right? So being able to leverage those tools, maybe you use it to buy points, to buy your interest rate down. You could use it to do an upfront private mortgage insurance to help really reduce that monthly cost that you're paying every month. So, there's a lot of benefit there to kind of stacking those programs. And, there's always a long line for free money, as we like to say, right? So a lot of times these programs have limits and they go quickly. So being in the right moment, planning with your loan officer as far as what is the timing that I need to be under contract for. Just as we move into this, right, we had announced it last time, but the Home Buyer Dream program this year is launching in January 8th, much earlier than it has in the past. So people really need to be out there now shopping for homes to get under contract to try and reserve a spot within the program, because that money does go quickly. Right.
So Joe, last thing, obviously, as we said, this is our last podcast of the year. I just want to, first thank everyone that's been a part of this, both here at GRB as well as the folks that listen in.
We had some guest speakers.
We had some guest speakers, which was great, and we plan on continuing to do more of it in the new year. What would really help us going forward is we want to make certain that we're providing content that's helpful, that's current, that can help realtors be more successful. And so, please feel free to, to share that with us. And one of the things that I was encouraged to say by supporting our podcast, if you could hit the like button and subscribe to our GRB YouTube channel, that would be huge.
And Instagram followers, right? We had a challenge to get to 575 We're at 562, so a little
So
disappointed
we're
in our
getting
listener
close.
base, but I really wanted Buddy the Elf to be on this, but maybe next year, right?
But maybe
Things to
next
shoot
year.
for.
Listen, I have so many costumes in my closet, so we can certainly dust them off and make them part of the new year. So, so that being said, we're going to sign off. We wish everybody a happy
holidays.
and a happy new year.
Happy New Year.
Okay.
We'll see everyone next year.
Okay, peace.